What is going on, all you superhero aficionados? This is the Heroes and Mutants podcast, your number one source of superhero talk. I'm Nick with my co-hosts Eric and Ruben. So Jimmy couldn't be in today. He definitely will be in next episode. Sorry, been a little inactive, just scheduling issues. Things have been a little bit hectic, but a lot was revealed recently, and a lot that I've been really excited to get through and talking about, with especially a lot of stuff that was revealed at D23. So one of the things that we'll get into it, but there's just a lot to reveal. We'll just go layer by layer and just go based off of what was released and what was we actually got full scope and trailers. But one of the most anticipated things that the MCU is doing is the miniseries Secret Invasion based off the comic. And one of the coolest things about it is that while it's the first show that is a crossover event for the MCU and Disney Plus, it will be self-contained, unlike WandaVision or Loki. It definitely has a different mood and tone than most of the previous shows. And I even think on the genre, it had like spy thriller on Disney Plus. So, and a lot of people are saying that it feels very similar to Winter Soldier in terms of tone and setting and mood. And it feels very intense and heightened. Easily a lot to look forward to. Do you guys get the feeling that, given that phrases 4 through 6 are the multiversal saga, will the story have any lasting effects / ramifications? And what do you think about the first look overall?
I don't know, man. I think from like a multiverse perspective, I don't see a lot of changes happening. Like I don't think this, since it is
Yeah,
self-contained, it's not going to affect the overall MCU and
yeah,
that much. But I mean, it's gonna change a lot of things because I mean, in Secret Invasion in the comic books, it revealed a lot about what was like right in front of us the whole time for years, right? So I think it's gonna be a big deal, and I actually want to see like I think the MCU, just because they plan so far ahead, I think they've probably like put out these little like hints and clues throughout the movies and shows that were actually leading up to this, right? And we didn't
definitely.
really get to see any of that until like Captain Marvel, I guess, when we first saw that the Nick Fury that we had wasn't necessarily the same Nick Fury that we thought we did.
Yeah,
So I think there's gonna be
exactly.
way more of that happening, where we're gonna find
Definitely.
out like who actually is and who's potentially not who they say they are.
Yeah. And definitely am getting the sense that there's going to be a lot of points that are going to be references to past events that happened in the MCU. Like we're going to revisit time frames and different movies and having a different kind of context than the scrolls being involved and that kind of stuff. So I have a feeling like it's going to kind of play on that aspect too.
Oh yeah, it has to, right? It has to.
Yeah. And what do you think about it overall, Ruben?
Yeah, I would like Eric was saying. I don't think it's gonna for the multiverse. I don't think it's gonna really play too much of a factor or affect it into it. But I do really think how it's comic book based, So I really like that. I'm always the one that preaches for that. Like I always want it to be as close as it's possible, whether it's a show or movie. I want it to be similar to the comics, and I feel like it's gonna be going in a good direction, And it's something different, I, for one, did want Secret Invasion to happen because it's like, the scrolls, who's who really? It's like
Yeah.
it's like a guessing game. Like, oh man, are you really who you say you are, like Eric was saying, or oh, are you really this person? But we won't know until they actually reveal themselves. So what I'm kind of excited for is, besides Nick, we know Nick is Nick,
Yeah. What's
not
up? Good to see
Nick,
you. Good to see you.
but like, but
No,
like,
Fury. Yeah.
I feel like I'm excited to see who else is a scroll.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I also think like the cast that's gonna be there is especially Samuel L. Jackson. Like just having that caliber of an actor on a series like this is gonna be really dope. Just to
Definitely.
see him do what he does and I'm hoping there's a really good story behind. I mean, Captain America: Winter Soldier is one of my favorite movies in the MCU, and I think it did a
Definitely.
really good job at doing that like action thriller type of thing. And then now they're saying like it's a spy thriller, and I'm hoping this will kind of fill the void that I felt after Black Widow, because I thought that was supposed to be more of a spy thriller, and it was
Yeah.
fun. I think it was an okay movie, but it definitely left a lot on the table that it left me
Yeah.
wanting more of the actual like spy thriller, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that was interesting too was that there was extended footage from the trailer that was released at D23. And it pretty much goes the same thing with Fury talking to Rhodey and them, the whole thing of like how well do you know your security detail? Well, when Fury tells him we are under an invasion right now, Rhodey says, "Oh, I know. 15 years ago, the Pentagon brought me in on a secret project because they had been aware of the Skrull invasion this whole time." And since we know from Miss Marvel that the current MCU takes place in 2025, this perfectly lines up with what Rhodey says, as Iron Man 2 was released in 2010. And it's also a subtle meta reference to him replacing Terrence Howard. So I found it a little bit funny that he had said like 15 years ago, and kind of talking about that whole thing of like that's where Don Cheadle entered the MCU, and it was like a little nod to that. But also this is also speculating theories that Fury could be a Skrull, could have been a Skrull this whole time. So I think that's like part of the appeal of it too, is we knew about what had happened in the ramifications from the comics. The only thing is obviously we're not going to get Galactus involved in it, because obviously Galactus is the one who had destroyed the Skrulls' homeworld. It would have been cool to kind of have like maybe a little reference to that, but obviously we know that the Kree was the one who destroyed the Skrulls' homeworld in the MCU. So there's going to be a lot of cool things to play, and the only thing I'm kind of speculating on is maybe it can involve with the whole multiversal aspect. Like maybe Kang was the one who pulled Skrulls from the different multiverses to like scout out places for him, or maybe he was looking for people to scout like the perfect home worlds for them or something like that. So maybe that can be a way that they involve it with the whole multiversal saga, because I think the thing is it's cool that we're getting it, and obviously we had talked about the intense setting and there was not a comedic tone or a hint of that at all in the trailer. So I think that's the part of the appeal for me. But I'm kind of wondering, like, is this going to be a kind of one-off thing, and what exactly is going to be the ramifications from that? Another cool thing is Olivia Colman, her character, she's going to be in the show. She's said to be a modern version of Union Jack, in that she could Jack's. He was actually in the first Captain America movie. His granddaughter or great granddaughter, and she's essentially a British Nick Fury in the comics. So that's going to be another cool thing to see how that plays out. Also, so a lot of cool stuff to come. We don't exactly know who Emilia Clarke is going to be, and just the way that this looks pretty cool. And obviously, there's going to be like warring factions of Skrulls, where ones that are more benevolent and actually good natured, and then there's obviously going to be ones that are evil and have bad intentions. So that's going to be a cool thing to see how all that plays out. But I'm kind of wondering what's going to go on afterwards. Like it.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Like you just mentioned, 2 more actresses that are going to be in it that are just high caliber actresses. So I think it's going to be really good. It's going to be really well thought out. I'm a fan of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the show. So I'm hoping maybe we'll get even just like a cameo, maybe Quake, right? Daisy Johnson in there, or anyone else really from the show. It'd be pretty cool to see some of that spill back over, kind of like we saw in Captain Marvel, right? I want to see some of that show up more and more throughout the MCU.
And it'd be a cool way to tie it all together too, because that would obviously let people know, like, hey, this is still canon, this still happened. It wasn't just something to where people were following for 5-6 years, whatever it was, and then that was it. So it'd be cool to at least have a little bit of a nod or reference to that.
Yeah, just tie it in somehow. Because the Kree Skrull, like alien technology and a lot of the stuff that happened on the show actually like would follow what was happening in the movies. I think even with Winter Soldier, I thought that was always cool. I remember being caught up with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and that season, right before Winter Soldier, the very last episode of that season actually showed you that Hydra was infiltrated even before the movie came out. And then the movie comes out and you find this out, and everyone that had watched the show was like, oh yeah, that's so cool. And a lot of other people were just like confused. But I just think, I think as if you're going to bring in this like the S.H.I.E.L.D. aspect, this like spy aspect, like bringing in, or at least nodding to that series would be pretty cool. At least fan service, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but it'd be cool to at least have a reference to that, or just a reminder like, hey, this has still happened and this is still something that affected and part of the story.
Yep.
So good stuff to come. I can't wait. It'll be released sometime in spring 2023. So wait to be seen about that.
Yep.
And one of the other cool things that came out from D23 is that we finally have a confirmed roster for the Thunderbolts. The roster includes Yelena, U.S. Agent, Ghost, Taskmaster, Red Guardian, Bucky, and Madam Hydra. It is not defined who is the leader, but given Madam Hydra is presumably going to assemble the team, essentially be the government delegate or contact, kind of like in the vein of an Amanda Waller. Obviously, she's probably going to take charge of missions and objectives to the team. And Yelena or Bucky, we don't exactly know if he's going to confirm to be Winter Soldier. I'm kind of hoping that he assumes the role or the mantle of White Wolf. That would be pretty cool to kind of differentiate from the Winter Soldier and White Wolf, and especially just have a callback to that because I thought that was a really cool thing. So it's assuming that one of them, probably more Yelena, just given her popularity and the fact that she's going to be a huge mainstay going forward, and we don't exactly know what's going to be done with Bucky. Sadly, no Zemo or Abomination, and I was heavily speculating that Abomination was going to be there. And given the fact of Zemo's history with the Thunderbolts, and he led the second iteration of the team, we definitely thought that he was going to be around, or at least leading the team. So, are you guys excited with this roster, and how do you expect it to be different from the Suicide Squad?
I think it's a solid roster, but when it comes to Zemo, I actually think he's going to be the villain in this show. I think they're gonna.
Interesting.
I think that's gonna be kind of the tie-in to bring Bucky into the team because they probably need to stop either him or what's her name, the dealer from Falcon Winter Soldier.
She was the scientist or the
They had a name for her.
Peggy. It was Peggy. Peggy was revealed to be. I forget who she
Peggy's
is. The scientist or the something.
Yeah, so I think it's probably going to be like a combination there of who the bad guys are and who this team is going to be fighting against. I also want to see how Red Guardian was brought into this group because obviously we saw U.S. Agent, we saw Yelena, and maybe some Taskmaster. I think Taskmaster went off with the Black Widows, right? So I think there's going to be a lot of story building here of putting the team together in the first place. Because that hasn't really been done yet, and they haven't put the team together. Unlike, or kind of like the original Avengers movie, right? Like the first 30, 40 minutes of the movie is just getting everyone into the same place and getting everyone together.
Exactly.
So I feel like it's going to be along those lines, and it's not necessarily going to be like Suicide Squad, right? Where you get all these villains and they're all already in prison, and you just put them together like, hey guys, you're a team. Like, I think it's going to work slightly different because everyone's in a different place right now. I actually don't remember where Ghost is right now. She's probably imprisoned.
I don't remember where it left off at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think that was what happened, but maybe there could be a tie-in with Goliath. Like maybe Goliath is the one who is kind of like the contact for her, the one that kind of gets her out of that situation, maybe comes into contact with Madam Hydra. So that could also be something into it too, because obviously we know that they're tied together. So I think the thing with me is I was a little disappointed that Zemo and Abomination are going to be in, especially just because of what was building up with She-Hulk. I speculated from the very beginning that with him getting parole, like that was going to be. I speculated that Madam Hydra was like going to be his parole officer, and that she was going to be the catalyst for him seeking parole. But maybe we can get them. He can come in at like a later time. But I think this lineup is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was pretty much. I think the only one was Red Guardian was the only one that wasn't really speculating that he could be in the Thunderbolts. Yeah. I think that where it's going to differentiate from that is that Suicide Squad is bright and colorful. There was a lot of comedic moments, and most of the team was villains. And here it's more going to be anti-heroes who want to kind of do the right thing. Like they are selfish, but there's a desire to at least want to do the right thing. So I think it's going to have more of this gritty, serious approach to it. That isn't going to be so like obviously Red Guardian is pretty much going to be the comedic relief, but I think most of them are going to want to have a desire to do some kind of good. Maybe Madam Hydra is going to be the one to kind of make that a little difficult or kind of stray those along those lines about like doing the right thing and then doing things for whatever purpose. So I think that's how it differentiates it, is that it's going to be a little bit more of a gritty kind of realistic portrayal at that. And yeah, I'm excited to see it overall.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty solid lineup. I don't have too much to complain about. But yeah, Red Guardian is the one that kind of threw me off. Like, okay, yeah, I want to know his backstory and how he did get onto the squad. Even though, yeah, he has history with Yelena, right? But I still want to know, like, did he just tag along with her? Did she recruit him? or he just like worked his way in, like said, you know what, like I'm gonna just join this group, because I can, or so I don't know. And he's the funny, like you say, he's gonna be the comedian anchor,
Yep.
for the movie. Like I think he's gonna be the one that's gonna bring all the funny stuff or say those dumb jokes or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to see what they do with Bucky. If they do go with the White Wolf, that would be pretty cool, Nick. I wasn't even thinking about that at all,
Yeah,
Nick. Maybe
ever
that's
ever
what he's doing, his transformation. Maybe like that's where he goes through the transformation. Like maybe I'm not gonna be Winter Soldier anymore. You can call me White Wolf, or who knows. There's a lot that can happen, but I'm excited for it because I want to do it. Like you said, the way I think it's gonna differentiate from the Suicide Squad is just gonna be a little bit. I know Suicide Squad DC is a little bit darker or whatever, but I feel like Marvel might actually do this one right. And like you said, Nick, it might be gritty. It's gonna be. Hopefully, it's gritty. For like they're anti-heroes, but they still have it in them where if they want to do some damage, they could do some damage. And
exactly.
so I feel like they have they have that mindset where I could switch off the good side in me and do what I have to do. But yeah, I feel like they're gonna do okay with it. Um, and yeah, I'm just excited for
Yeah.
sure.
I wonder
Yeah, sounds
what
good.
or how they're gonna tie in Thunderbolt Ross into this. Obviously, because the actor passed away, and the
Yeah,
name of the group itself it's kind of
is
based off of
Thunderbolt.
yeah.
So
So I wonder,
his namesake
yeah.
essentially. So
So I wonder if there was already footage that was filmed with him, and if they had to just rewrite a few. I'm sure they had to rewrite a few things
They were supposed
to
to
get
be
it done.
Red Hulk, huh?
yeah,
Yeah, Red Hulk.
Damn, that
it would
sucks,
have
Yeah,
been
dude.
cool. He's a great actor too. Like ever since the very beginning when he was cast as Thunderbolt Ross, I'm like, wow, this is the perfect actor to portray
oh yeah,
Red Hulk, and especially since when he came back in Civil War, then he came back in Black Widow. And the whole him being like weak and sick. I'm like, this has got to be them setting up for Red Hulk, and
yeah,
fortunately, it didn't happen. Rest in peace to William Hurt, but
The ending to Endgame hits a little different now when they're all in the Tony's funeral. That one hits a little different now. Like, dang, like
definitely,
yeah.
this who passed
definitely.
away.
And moving on from that, some other really surprising news that I didn't expect at all, and I'm sure Eric is really happy because he's a Hulk villain. But Tim Blake Nelson is finally confirmed as the leader in Captain America: New World Order. He made an appearance in 2008's Incredible Hulk, where there was a cliffhanger. He was becoming Hulk villain, the leader. Along with him, the movie stars obviously Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson, Captain America, Danny Ramirez as Latinos represent as Joaquin Torres. It's assumed that he's going to be Falcon,
Yep.
and Carl Lumbly is also going to be reprising his role as Isaiah Bradley, the former Captain America during the Korean War. So, what do you guys think about? Was this surprising news, and how does this change the dynamic of the movie at all?
I don't know. I don't even know if he's gonna be like the main villain. I don't think that was officially said, but having the leader is gonna be really cool because they're uh, obviously all the MCU heroes have fought against really smart people, right? But they're like the leader is up there as one of the most intelligent out of all villains in the comic books. So I think trying to
Mm.
outsmart someone like that is gonna be is especially gonna really push our new Captain America, Sam, to the limit because it's not just going to be a straight
Definitely.
up fight. You can't just use like technical abilities and like
Yep.
what he has. Like he's really going to have to pull in that like strategy focus that a lot of what like Steve Rogers brought to the table, right? Like he was a leader, he was very strategic. You saw that ever since the first Captain America. You saw it in Avengers, right? He became the leader, Steve Rogers, because he was able to tell people what to do and lead people in the right way. So I think having this villain, having the leader is really going to push Sam to that level. And because
Exactly.
we saw him in the show kind of accept right that role and
That mantle.
accept that mantle and kind of
Mhm.
confront what he was feeling internally, but now it might be the opportunity for him to get like those around him to accept him as Captain America.
Definitely.
Yeah. I
So
think it
Also,
fits in
actually,
perfectly.
oh,
Oh, go for it. Go for it, Nick. Go for it.
no, go ahead. I have some. There's like
Well,
a theory that I'm speculating that I want to touch on, but go ahead. Give your take
yeah, no,
first.
I was just gonna just tag on to what Eric was saying. Well, I think it fits in perfectly because, like Eric is saying, it's gonna be more mental than physical abilities,
mhm,
and even him as just being non superpowered, superhuman, like he's just a regular dude with the gadgets. And so I feel like this fits in perfectly for the way it's gonna go, because like I said, it's not gonna be about just having super strength anymore. You gotta think long game, long term, use your head more than anything, be strategic. And but that's good for Sam though, because he was in the military too. So I feel like he already knows how to make
Mhm.
plans. But when he was following Captain America, he was his wingman. So now that he took up the mantle,
Literally, literally.
he's gonna come up, yeah, literally, he's gonna come up with he's gonna be the one now that come up with the plans, the ideas. But like you said, it's gonna be a struggle because he's not going up against just anybody. So it's gonna be, I think it's gonna test him to his intelligence, and we'll see what he does with it.
Definitely. Actually, also join. I forgot to mention this too. I forgot, but also joining the cast is newcomer Shira Haas. She's gonna play Sabra, a mutant whose first public act when working as an agent for the Mossad was a battle with the Hulk in the comics. So it'll be kind of interesting if they're gonna make her a mutant. Especially we know that mutants are coming already here in the MCU, so it'd be a cool way to kind of go that route too, and have another nod to mutants existing in the MCU. And my theory on this all is that it was actually confirmed MODOK is going to be in Quantumania. They let it slide recently. And this could also mean that they're building up towards Intelligentsia, a criminal group
Mm.
made up of some of the most intelligent minds in the Marvel Universe. Obviously, you got the leader in there. You got MODOK, who are two of the smartest beings in the Marvel Universe. And another thing that I found was a connection movie and Falcon and Winter episode is also called New World Order. So the funny thing was about this, looking back on it now, Torres talks to Sam about conspiracy theories about Steve living on the moon and comments on a lot of fake news out there. So it seems appropriate as Captain America. Sam is going to have to traverse through this political climate against fake news and false information, which I think is going to be part of the leader's plan. Because obviously, with him being super intelligent, he's gonna be able to kind of get people on his side or get things to be seen in a certain way and use his intelligence as opposed to just going through brute force or directly through, like, this is going to be a new challenge for Captain America, something that Steve didn't go through. So this is going to be an interesting thing. I can't wait to see how it all plays out, and there's just a lot on the table with where it can go and who else they can bring into, who else is coming, and kind of connections with that. So super excited for it.
Yep.
So moving on from that, this is something that was really cool, something that I'm a little skeptical on, or I'm just more cautious. I would say I'm skeptical on, but Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio appeared on stage together for the Daredevil Born Again panel. Cox said about the series, it's a season one, it is not season four, so it is a whole new thing, which I think is the way to go. If you're going to do it again, do it differently. Is this statement a cause for concern, or do you feel this is truly the way to go about it and to have Daredevil, pun intended, reborn?
Man, as a Daredevil fan and a fan of the show, I was kind of disappointed by this statement. And
Mm.
honestly, like, I'm caught up with She-Hulk. I don't know if you guys are, but we
Oh yeah, of
have
course. I mean,
we have that cameo at the end of She-Hulk this week where it showed the Daredevil helmet, right? And it's like,
that
oh,
classic
like,
yellow.
yeah, and they're like, we
Yeah.
need to hide this or whatever, confidentiality. And he puts it away. I'm like, and that's like just looking at how his costume was made, and you remember how in Daredevil on the original show he had to go like to the shady dude, and it was all done underground, and
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
like there was this whole thing about him creating the suit, and now he goes to this guy on She-Hulk who's like super like fancy, and he works exclusively with superheroes. It's just a different take, and honestly, like, it's okay. Okay, so I love the shows. I love the grittiness of Daredevil and all that, but one has to understand that even in the comic books, there is a lighter side to Daredevil as well, and that'd be really fun to see see play out. And I almost like to explain the like lighter comics to friends and stuff as like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? Like, they're super badass. They're always fighting. That's how Daredevil is too. But there's like a quirkiness to it almost, in those lighter comics that we got, especially in the earlier years, especially when he had the yellow and red suit. So
Yeah.
if
And
that's what
that's
we're
exactly
getting,
what.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna comment on that too. That's exactly what Cox had mentioned in interviews too, and telling people not to worry so much. Like, yes, this is gonna be a little bit of a lighter approach to what we've seen from Daredevil, especially with that pertaining to the show. But that obviously Daredevil has that humor and had that kind of tone in the comics before, so it's not something that's going to be completely unfaithful to the character.
Yeah, I just hope people don't get pushed away from it just because they're expecting, like you said, the next season of Daredevil. Like it's gonna be different. I mean, even with Kingpin in Hawkeye, he seemed different. It was different. Like yes, it was the same actor, but even like how he was dressed and stuff was very over the top, and he wasn't as like dark per se
As
as you,
menacing.
yeah, as menacing as you remember before. He was like physically menacing, and especially when he was fighting right with Hawkeye. But
Yeah,
in the end, like I think this is gonna be more faithful to those lighter Daredevil comic books, which are also good, right? Like, just I hope people go out and read those to prepare themselves sooner
yeah,
rather than later, because from the looks of it, I mean, next week we might just get Daredevil on She-Hulk, and
Yeah,
people might get
no,
disappointed. I'm just gonna be excited that we got him back.
definitely. Same here. What do you think, Ruben?
for me, I mean, I think I get if you think a little deeper into what he's saying is they're not calling it a fourth season because obviously they're just trying to reboot it and just bring the character back to the MCU. So the way I interpret it is like don't think of it as the fourth season and just like you said, pun intended, him being reborn again. I see it as like we're not gonna continue off from the Netflix series. We're just gonna it's gonna be the same. Build up his. I feel I'm pretty sure they're gonna keep the same. What I'm trying to say is the same origin story.
Yeah,
So I don't think they'll go deeper into that in this new series. So I think it'll kind of go continued from there, but because it already has the build up. He already has his origin story. So I don't think the MCU has to do that with him again. So I feel like they're just gonna people already can assume who he is already, like why
yeah,
he's Daredevil and why he's doing what he's doing. So I think I'm okay with that, but I am excited for him to come. So if he comes
yeah,
out in She-Hulk, this week, oh man,
yeah.
I'm excited for it because they already, like you said, we already know we're gonna get him. So,
Right.
but once we see him, it's like it's official. We got him. We
Yeah.
got him.
I think
So
it's
yeah,
gonna.
I'm looking forward.
I like how you put that, because I think it's really necessary to understand that yeah, they're not going to do another origin story for Daredevil, even though it's so many episodes. But the fact that they have that many episodes planned out already for this is they have a well thought out story planned out, right? Like they're gonna
Exactly.
actually put out a good season. It's not gonna be a short like 6 episodes or even like 8 episode season. It's gonna be long, and so they have a
Yeah,
lot of story to tell. So
exactly.
and I'm with you, Ruben. I'm not expecting another origin story. Like kind of like what they did with Spider-Man, right? They just jumped in and they're like, everyone knows Spider-Man's origin. They know he was bit by radioactive spider. We don't need to go through this again. We just jumped straight into it with Tony meeting Peter and being like, I know you're Spider-Man, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of how the jumping off point is going to be She-Hulk, right? We already know we're going to see Daredevil. We already know he's going to come out, and once we see that, maybe it's just a cameo like we've seen in other She-Hulk episodes. But even then, it's going to be like, all right, he's already an established hero. This is what's happening, and this is where it's going moving forward.
Exactly.
And I
I'm
think
I'm
him getting the special helmet done already shows that he's already, you know,
Yeah,
he's already
born again,
been a
essentially.
superhero. Yeah, he's
yeah.
already been a
The
superhero for
yeah,
it.
like you said, the fact that this guy, like, he was super exclusive. He didn't even know who She-Hulk was, and he's like, I don't know who she is. I'm not gonna create a costume for her, but he knows who Daredevil is, and he already,
Yeah.
because he had agreed to make a super suit for him. So,
Exactly.
obviously, I think it just hasn't been shown yet, but I think at the ground level, people already know who Daredevil is and that he's out there doing stuff. So yeah,
Definitely.
so
So
I'm just cautious about it and trying not to. I'm trying to manage my expectations in the right way, because I think I can be excited for it. I think he did great as Daredevil. Vincent D'Onofrio obviously is a great Kingpin, um, and so I'm just cautious about it, and what the tone is going to be and how it's going to be slightly different from what we saw with the Netflix series.
yeah, same. I'm just cautiously optimistic. Obviously, Charlie Cox is Daredevil, one of the most spot on casting in comic book media of all
Yeah.
time. Right up there with, Tony Stark, Iron Man. I'm sorry, Robert Downey Jr. as
Yes.
Iron Man and Steve Rogers as Captain America, just like that, and that same level of just with that's just the first or I don't know, maybe there's a few people out there who think of Ben Affleck as Daredevil. I don't know, maybe you're one of the few in the minority who believe that, but I think just because he was so on board and the passion and just the overall excitement he had, like when you saw him on stage him and Vincent D'Onofrio on stage at D23, they just looked like little kids in a candy store,
Excited.
which is so refreshing and exciting to see. But just with this, I'm just a little worried just because of the tone and the mood and what was established in the series, that gritty crime drama, that street level. I just don't want them to shy away from that, and especially because it felt somewhat reminiscent of Frank Miller's run on Daredevil. That is always going to be Daredevil to me, and that's going to be the version that I think of when I most think of what Daredevil is. Like Frank Miller did a great job with really fleshing that character out and really saying like this is the version of Daredevil, and this is the one that I think of when I think of Daredevil. So I just don't want them to shy away from that aspect of the character. It's going to be cool to see him interact with Spider-Man and have those contrasting styles, but I just don't want them to shy away from that and to like have it be that, oh, we can't go so hard, or we can only go like a soft or medium PG-13. I probably won't be a soft, but like a medium PG-13 rating.
Well,
so that's just.
I was gonna say, I mean, we got really good action with Moon Knight. That really pushed that PG-13 rating, right? Like it's not gonna be PG-13 because it's a show, but yeah, you know what I mean. Like it's obvious. I don't think it's gonna be TVMA like it was on Netflix, but I think what we saw with Moon Knight, especially with like the fighting and the action that we saw, I would be happy with that with Daredevil. I think it's okay. I don't need to see the level of like gruesomeness that I saw on the Netflix show, but I think Moon Knight did a good job of kind of balancing that out and having that grittiness and still doing a good job, where I think MCU is going to do right by Daredevil, where I think it'll have a lighter side, much like Moon Knight did at times. I think it will have a lighter side, it'll have a funny side, but it'll still be true to the character of Daredevil, and that he is like fighting, right? Like he still needs to be physically imposing without having those superpowers to make him strong. And so I hope to still see the level of action that we did on Netflix. Maybe not as far as like the Punisher prison scene. Obviously, we're not going to get something like that again.
No, we probably won't, honestly.
Yeah, but there's some scenes in Daredevil, fighting scenes in the Netflix series, that I think would pass as non-TVMA fights.
Yeah.
So
it'll be interesting. I'm wondering if we're going to be getting another hallway one take fight scene. I don't think that we will, but it'd be cool to have that as a little nod to. That'd be cool to have as a little nod to the Netflix series, because that was one thing that they did in every season. So that'd be cool.
No, I love those. It's so good.
Yeah, so good. I'm just more surprised because all of these shows so far have gotten 6-7 episodes, but this one has 18. All the other shows are 1/3 its size. So obviously it's good. They're giving the fans what they want, but that's just not something that they've done before. So I'm just more worried on that aspect. Is it? And then the Netflix series, they all had like 12, 13 episodes. So I'm just wondering what the pacing is going to be and how the story is going to move along. What's going to go on with that? That's just more also something I'm a little bit cautious on. But this is Daredevil. This is Charlie Cox. This is Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin. Possibly John Bernthal coming back as the Punisher also. So a lot of exciting stuff to come. I'm not just give me awesome fights and gritty, realistic stuff and awesome law stuff and Eldon Henson coming back as Foggy Nelson too. And I'm all so it sounds cool.
Yep.
And then it's kind of funny about this trailer that dropped, because literally the day before I was talking with a coworker about this, and then this trailer drops the next day. So it's kind of funny. So I was mentioning, hey man, I don't know what's going on with Werewolf by Night. We haven't heard anything since they had wrapped filming earlier this year. Like there was nothing that was going on. We had heard it was going to be a special, but I thought maybe it was going to be like a 4 or 5 episode like miniseries kind of thing. They just said special Halloween special. I'm like, okay, maybe like it's gonna be appearing all in the month of October, so like 4 episodes. But then we got a trailer for this that's going to be dropping on October 7th. And it's black and white, pulpy, with the narration very reminiscent of a Universal monster movie from the 40s and 50s. And it's also going to feature the Man Thing. And this is so cool as it feels like uncharted territory for the MCU and feels like they're going all in with it. One of the interesting things about this, too, is that this special is directed by Michael Giacchino. He's been a composer in the industry for the past 2 decades. You've heard his music, some of the solo MCU films since 2016. And he's actually been working a lot with Matt Reeves. He actually just did the composing and the music for the Batman. And he's also going to be composing the score for the special, and he even edited the trailer. So, overall, with this being uncharted territory for the MCU, are you guys excited for it? And how do you see him appearing in the future at all?
I mean, it would have to appear in the future, right? I I'm really disappointed that Jimmy's
I
not
mean, it
on
could
this
just be
one.
a one-off thing, but just
Yeah, I know, I know. I was gonna say I'm disappointed that Jimmy's not on this one because there's such a
I know I
cool
really
like
wanted him
horror
to.
aspect to this trailer, and I think it's gonna be super good. And obviously, the comic book series was amazing, and I think they're gonna do. They got the tone right just in the trailer, and that's what's making me super excited for Werewolf by Night. Um, I think with the direction that the MCU has been going, especially with Moon Knight, we know we're getting Blade, and we have Black Knight, like all these different like supernatural heroes. I think we have to get him. We have to get at least some of these characters back outside of this miniseries or this one shot. And I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be really cool, and I'm fully expecting to see these characters show up again. Um, Obviously, time will tell. I think maybe they're gonna see what the reception is first, and then they'll see if they'll bring back
Yeah,
some of these characters. Uh, but overall, I don't see why they wouldn't, especially if they get the tone right. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I
definitely.
agree with you, Eric, because I feel like it's something we haven't got in the MCU. You know what I'm saying? When I think of something like this, I think of like Frankenstein. You know, so I was like, I feel like the Werewolf by Night is gonna be up there for sure. And yeah, it's a one-off for sure, but I think it's just a way for them to introduce these characters. They're like, we don't need to do nothing too big, you know, make a a sequel or a show about these dudes. I think it's a perfect for a one-off, especially a lot of people, if they're really readers, to the comics, they already know who these characters are,
Yeah.
and especially if they're into all that spooky, thrilling kind of stuff. So, I think it's gonna be cool, and I agree with you, Eric. I do feel like people are gonna see these characters again after this one-off. But like you're saying, it just all depends on how the viewership goes,
Hmm.
the feedback. But I already know that I think it's gonna be a good one for sure, just based off the trailer.
Definitely. And even we even have a premise for this too. So the premise is a secret group of monster hunters gather at Bloodstone Castle following the death of their leader and engage in a mysterious and deadly competition for a powerful relic, which will bring them face to face with a dangerous monster. So the whole thing about Bloodstone Castle, and on the casting list, we got Laura Donnelly, who's going to be playing Elsa Bloodstone. She's essentially a Buffy vampire slayer in the comics. Her father is Ulysses Bloodstone. He's also a monster hunter. He was imbued with, and the relic I think that they're going to be after is the Bloodstone Gem. The Bloodstone Gem is this alien relic that grants its users extended lifespan, enhanced abilities. So he had that Ulysses had that embedded in his chest, and there was like a piece of it splintered off that Elsa wore on her neck in a choker. So she was also imbued with enhanced abilities too. So I think that's what's going to be the basis of it, is what's going to be going on as far as like the relic, and then obviously face to face with a dangerous monster. That's going to be Man Thing. Ulysses Bloodstone was also the animatronic zombie that you saw. I think he says he laughs and says something about like everyone's having fun tonight or something. That also felt very similar to the Crypt Creeper. He like makes a pun, and it was kind of like this funny kind of thing. So this is pretty cool that they're having these characters in it who have not had their time to shine. And I mean, you're not really
Yeah.
going to have any world where the Bloodstones are involved. That's not going to involve like Dracula or Midnight Suns or any of these characters. So
Well,
it's
I
pretty
think
cool
Alpha's
we're getting.
supposed to come out in Blade, if I'm not mistaken.
They haven't revealed yet, but it's probably pretty likely that she's going to be, just given that she's a monster hunter and obviously the ties to the vampires and all of that. So that that part is really cool, and I'm just so excited for this. The thing that actually really caught me off guard was that upon me rewatching it, I noticed that there's TVA agents in it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was actually pretty surprising to me. So I'm actually speculating that this takes place in the void. And as we know that there's as monsters from other realities are sent to that one dimension to be contained in like that kind of world in the void. Also, we know that in Loki, Mobius says that they fought vampires before, so it makes
Yeah.
sense like that they would have like some dimension designed specifically for those characters and all those other like monster
One
ones to
little
be involved.
sanctuary.
Yeah, and the thing that actually gives credence to that and makes that theory more plausible is if you've seen that shot of the whole village, it looks kind of artificial. It looks on the outskirts, on the borders, it just looks like nothing. So I'm like, there's like no neighboring villages, there's like no trees, there's nothing. So it all feels like it's just set in like a pocket kind of dimension. So my theory is that this actually takes place in the void, and that'd be a pretty cool thing that happens. Or we'll have to wait to see. But I also too, when the TVA agents prune him, nothing happens. He just gets shocked. So that makes further sense if like that takes place in that pocket dimension. He's already getting sent there, so there's no way for it to affect him.
Yeah.
And I think the thing I'm really excited for is there's just a whole lot of practical effects with this going on, which gives kind of that same effect on obviously back in like the era of the Wolfman and the Universal monster movies from the 40s and 50s. Obviously, all they had was practical effects, so that all looks really cool. I really can't wait to see it. It pretty interesting too because it's been revealed that Gail Garcia Bernal, who is going to be playing Werewolf by Night, there's two incarnations of Werewolf by Night. The version he's going to be playing is Jack Russell. I was assuming he was going to be Jake Gomez, just given that Jake is a Native American, and I thought they were going to kind of go that route, make it a little bit more diverse, because obviously Jack Russell, his family comes from Transylvania in the comics, but where I think it can, so Jack Russell is kind of interesting that they did this incarnation because Jack Russell in the comics actually has ties to the Darkhold and to Dracula because his family was cursed with a lycanthropy virus on their bloodline because his grand ancestor was bitten by Dracula's werewolf. And then that curse was reawakened by his father, by his grandfather, who read a lycanthropy incantation in the Darkhold. So he has the connection to Dracula and the Darkhold, and I'm hoping that's going to kind of be there because that would also, we obviously know the Darkhold exists in the MCU now. With Blade coming, that's also going to be further having those connections to Dracula. So it'd be kind of a cool thing if they have those nods to like the Darkhold and Dracula. And it was also revealed that Mahershala Ali was supposed to be appearing in this special, but he's not going to be anymore due to scheduling conflicts. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
How do you guys think, man? What do you are you guys excited to see Man Thing? How do you guys feel about that?
I mean, Man Thing's dope. Man Thing has some of like the best Marvel comics ever. Like, it's actually really well thought out story, especially for the type of character that he is. Seeing Man Thing would be really dope. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and it's something different. Like I said, Marvel hasn't done anything spooky like this. So I think it'll be something pretty cool.
Yeah,
And
I think
that
overall,
could also
I'm
be
excited.
something. Yeah, because also we know too that Man Thing serves as the nexus of all realities. As when he in the comics when he crashed his car into the mystical swamp that turned him into Man Thing, he had created a nexus and caused his blood to mix with interdimensional magic. It's basically a place where all realities converge, a cross-dimensional gateway that can be used to travel between all possible realities. So maybe I think this further gives credit to this whole thing on this story taking place in the void, and maybe Werewolf by Night, Jack Russell, he escapes through that, and then he comes into the MCU Earth 616 timeline or reality. So I kind of think that that's also what's going on, in that maybe we'll get him in the future. We know that they can do Midnight Suns. Charlie Cox has talked about it, and they can bring in Ghost Rider. You have Blade coming. You can do Moon Knight, obviously with Werewolf by Night, and him having that connection to Moon Knight. That would also be something cool. So I'm just really excited for it. It's kind of funny. I was a big fan of my first introduction to horror was actually the Universal Monster movies, because as a kid, I was super scared of Chucky, of Jason, of Freddy. Like, I was so traumatized until I was 12, 13. Then you guys remember how on AMC they had the classic monster movies playing during Halloween? Well, obviously my grandma being born in 1939, that was her first experience and exposure to horror. And just being a kid and seeing like all the practical effects, like it's not as violent, it's not as bloody, not as scary in terms of what was scary in the 90s. So when I had seen that, I was like started becoming a little bit with an open mind, like, oh, okay, this isn't that bad. And that kind of served as a little bit of a gateway for me to like go on to other more intense forms of horror. So for me, this actually comes close to my heart, because this was kind of a bonding moment for me and my grandmother, and the point where I stopped being a little bee and started being like, oh, this isn't that bad. So Werewolf by Night, can't wait. Hopefully we get to see him in Midnight Suns. And Gail Garcia Bernal is just a really talented actor, and it was really cool that they got him into this project. So for one, if they don't do anything with this character, it's going to be a huge waste of his talent, because everything this guy does is just great. And further props to getting our Mexican Latino brethren in there. So,
yeah, and it should be coming out 2 weeks, so it's around the corner.
Yeah,
yep, it is, man.
So just right around the corner. I really can't wait.
Yep.
So I wanted to talk a little bit more. I actually did some digging, because this episode was gonna. We were supposed to film this actually like 2 weeks ago. Didn't happen. So I actually did some digging on further stuff that was revealed at D23 and exclusive footage, stuff that didn't get covered. So spoilers ahead, because there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be revealed that I'm going to talk about. And if you guys want to jump in and interject, feel free to do so. We'll start first, Wakanda Forever. So there was extended footage of Queen Ramonda at the UN, where a delegate played by Richard Schiff. He's best known for playing Toby Ziegler on West Wing. He's also in Man of Steel as the scientist Emil Hamilton. He chastises the Queen about the security crisis they're involved in. And also a French delegate is protesting about vibranium and weapons of mass destruction, more so how vibranium is unnoticed by metal detectors. It kind of feels like that could be a plot point for this film in the future. And Ramonda fires back, yelling that she understands where everyone's coming from, and that Wakanda was what they wanted. Vibranium is what they wanted since they found out how powerful it was and the things that can be done with it. And that T'Challa is dead, and the world thinks that this is their chance to strike. And that this scene of her talking is also intercut with the scene of the soldiers raiding the Wakanda lab that we saw. That was more likely going to be an outreach center. And they're trying to steal the vibranium. And turns out that some of the scientists are revealed to be Dora Milaje members in disguise. And they easily dominate and beat the soldiers. And the conference ends with Ramonda ordering the Dora Milaje to bring in the soldiers that they captured. Pretty much flexing on the whole world, saying that they can't and won't be messed with, and that pretty much come at us, bro. So this really goes to show just the state of how truly powerful Wakanda is, even though the Black Panther is dead and T'Challa is dead, that they're not weak and that they can fend for themselves, and Wakanda is strong and resilient and is going to stand up to anybody that tries to come and mess with them. One of the things I was also pretty interested in, there's been no information or anything that was revealed about Ironheart, and we actually saw some exclusive footage of the series with actor Jim Rash. He's returning as a dean of MIT. We saw him in Civil War at the end of Tony's speech. He was trying to get funding for MIT, and this time he's yelling at Riri Williams because some of her projects have gone way over budget, and says, you're not the only student of MIT, and he gets cut off by an explosion going off in her current project. And we actually get full confirmation that Anthony Ramos is playing Parker Robbins, aka the Hood, a dark magic wielder who has connections to Dormammu in the comics. And given that Dormammu probably wants revenge on Doctor Strange, it seems that it's pretty imminent, or they're hinting at his return. The thing that really intrigued me about the series, though, is that Kevin Feige commented on the biggest intrigue for this show was the concept of this whole magic versus technology slash science between the hero and villain. More so that it's going to be the theme of the show, and it just sounds really cool. And it also echoes themes in the first Thor when when Thor tells Jane, "Your ancestors called it magic, you call it science. I come from a land where they're one and the same." There's also some shots of Riri in her Ironheart suit, and one of the highlights was that people said that the lighting and cinematography looked very different from what we've seen in the MCU on Disney Plus. So that all sounds pretty exciting, and I'm actually really excited for Ironheart, even though that's not a character I read up on or know a whole lot about. So that all sounds pretty cool. I think this is also going to be something I'm really intrigued on, and I don't think you guys knew this, but there's also exclusive footage that was seen about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and it was an extension of what was shown at Comic-Con. We get Kang talking to Scott, telling him, "You're an Avenger, huh? Didn't I kill you before?" And this whole thing ends with him saying, "Well, all Avengers die eventually." Kang further goes on to say that something was stolen from him and only Ant-Man can help him get it back, as he knows that Ant-Man is a damn good thief. Something Scott says to Hank, obviously, in the first film, so we understand Scott's relevance to the story, and it seems like this is going to be a multiversal heist film. And there's speculation that it isn't what Kang wants, it's who. And given that Ravonna Renslayer is his lover in the comics, it's very feasible that He Who Remains kidnapped her and hid her in the TVA to hide her from Kang. So further, we got those kind of things going on. I'm kind of speculating that's what's going to happen, and that'd just be a cool way to kind of have that nod from the comics. It felt a little weird that Ravonna was there, but didn't really have that connection to Kang. So that's got to be what's going on for sure. And we also got for Loki Season 2. This was so. I don't know if you guys knew this, but Q Hoi Kwan, he was at D23. He played Short Round in the Indiana Jones Temple of Doom in the 80s. He actually gave one of the best performances of the year in Everything Everywhere All at Once. And this is the reason why you've seen that photo that broke the internet with him hugging Harrison Ford backstage at D23. It's actually revealed he's going to be in Season 2 of Loki. He's going to be an archivist or a record keeper for the TVA. And in the brief shots that we saw of Loki of Season 2, we saw him in a creepy, empty TVA headquarters, and he keeps getting glitching around, like someone is messing with him with one of those reset devices. Eventually, he claws away at a wall mural of time creepers, and behind it are all three giant golden faces of Jonathan Majors as either Kang or He Who Remains variants. And it's going to be interesting because maybe we'll get to see different variants of Kang that Jonathan Majors will be playing. Obviously, maybe we can. There was hints of him like He Who Remains was Immortus. Hopefully, we'll see King Rama Tut, and it just be a cool concept that he's going to be playing these different versions of his character, something we haven't seen before. So that's going to be pretty cool. That's all going to be pretty cool. We saw a brief panel. There was a brief thing that they did for Echo. I'm also pretty intrigued by this. I know, Eric, you're a big fan, so that all sounds pretty cool. The thing, it seems like they're going to be focusing on her show is going to focus on her Native American heritage, more explicitly what the name Echo means to her and how her name is echoing through her ancestry. So we got a little bit of a deeper meaning to the name Echo, and more so with her relevance to that, like with her Native American culture. We haven't seen that represented in the MCU yet, so kind of going to be a different story to be told. And the money shot of the trailer was the discovery that Wilson Fisk is alive with a bandage on his eye, and finally we see that Maya is at odds with the other tracksuit, so that maybe that kickstarts what's going on with her in this. We also got they talked a little bit about Fantastic Four. The only thing that we got is that the director is going to be Matt Shakeman. He directed actually all of WandaVision. He's going to be replacing John Watts. No casting or early concept ideas were released, so that was one of the things that people were banking on that we were going to see. And last but not least, we actually had a trailer for the Marvels. I'm actually pretty excited for this. Obviously, I told you guys I'm not really that big of a Captain Marvel fan. I'm more excited to see Photon and Miss Marvel as opposed to Captain Marvel. And the cool thing about this was that the trailer was cut to a quintessential song that goes to the movie so seamlessly. You guys ready for it?
No.
Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys. Let's say Backstreet Boys. Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys. How freaking cool is that?
That's funny.
So it turns out that Kamala and Carol didn't switch places with each other. They also switched with Monica. So it was kind of like a Trinity swapping going on. So Monica is floating outside the Saber space station with Fury on it, where we last saw him from Far From Home, and it's probably a Skrull space station as it resembles the Peak from the comics. Monica floats towards a glowing blue energy in a spacesuit, and when she touches it, she swaps places with Kamala, who starts flying off the handle while in the spacesuit, because she's obviously freaking out.
Yeah.
And she taps on the window and sees Fury and asks if she can be part of the Avengers, so keeping into with her obsession with wanting to join the team.
Yep.
And Monica lands where Carol was, and it looks like it's on a moon surrounded by Kree warriors. Carol obviously lands in Kamala's room, and we further see Monica and Carol meeting the Khans, and the chemistry and rapport amongst the Marvels is said to be very adorable and touching. So can't wait to see those relationships grow and flourish. Another funny thing happens in this trailer. Kamala meets Marvel's Flurkin goose that happens to resemble a cat, and it devours someone, and she gets frightened. So that was I'm actually pretty excited to hear about this because I didn't know what to make of it. Photon seems cool. And Miss Marvel, I actually felt there was a lot of relatability, and I didn't really care so much for Captain Marvel. But just hearing that all three work so well, it's going to be like an awesome team-up movie and kind of going to be one of those things that is going to be pretty exciting going forward. So a lot of good stuff revealed D23. Hopefully that helped further, because I couldn't really find any information aside from the main panels, but I was like, what happened with the Marvels? What happened with Echo? Ironheart, none of that got its time to shine. So the fact that I was able to find this information, hopefully that gives a little bit more credence to what's going on and the other stuff that is on the horizon. So really, really cool stuff, exciting to see.
Exciting, yeah.
And yeah, I think.
Sure.
Well, what was the most exciting thing that you guys are awaiting for that was revealed at D23?
For me, I mean, I'm really hyped about Black Panther right now. So getting more details on Black Panther is great, especially since it's just around the corner, right? It comes out in November. So I'm anything I can get on that, I get hyped for. I get excited for. I think that scene that you described is actually really interesting. It's really cool, because I know this still hasn't been confirmed, but the majority of the rumors are trending towards Shuri becoming the Black Panther. And if you know, in the comic books, Wakanda suffered this as well, where the whole world was trying to take their vibranium. And we talked about this before. I know Ruben touched on this on Doctor Doom trying to steal the vibranium from Wakanda. In the comic books, what T'Challa actually ends up doing is making the vibranium useless, just completely across the board, so no one can steal it and no one can have it. As part of that, he loses the mantle of Black Panther and it goes to Shuri. But also no one's able to take it from them anymore, and no one's able to utilize it as a weapon. So I think it might be going along with that storyline, because that's how T'Challa in the comic books virtually like disappears. He goes on and does his own thing in Daredevil comics actually, and I think he becomes the Daredevil for a little while. But I don't think, obviously we're not going to see that, but I think this might be their way to kind of phase out the actor, right, and pass the mantle on to someone else. And if we see that play out in theaters, I think that'd be pretty cool and a smart way to kind of pass on the mantle to someone else, not necessarily Shuri, but that's how Shuri gets the mantle in the comic books. So hearing that this was shown in this way, and there's a clear struggle between Wakanda and the rest of the world, obviously we're gonna get Atlantis involved in some capacity as well. So I think, or they're not calling it Atlantis anymore, right? They changed the name, but whatever.
They changed it,
yeah. So regardless, I think it's that info. Just the more info I get on Black Panther, the more excited I get for the movie. And like I said, it's around the corner, so we're gonna get it soon.
What about you, Ruben? What do you
I'm gonna have to go
really
with that.
took your breath away?
with that, man, because I'm excited for Kang and just
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
the way Loki ended with he who
he remains.
uh yeah, he who remains freaking the way it ended, he was even scared of another version of himself, so
Yeah,
I'm like, dude, like if he's scared of himself, like that says a lot because they're all powerful in their own way, so for him to be like scared of his own another version of himself is what I'm excited for, and
yeah,
what kind of drama he's gonna bring into the MCU.
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So hopefully we
I think
get.
for me,
I was gonna say hopefully we get these trailers that came out during D23 soon,
yeah.
for us to for the rest of the people to see.
Seriously.
Well, if we don't, you're welcome. Brought
Yeah,
to you
yeah,
by Heroes of Mutants First. So all that research and staying up late, you're welcome. I don't
yeah.
regret it. As long as you hit that subscribe button and share with your friends, I do not regret it. But kidding. But I think for me, it's hard because I would have said Werewolf by Night, and I'm still really excited and intrigued by it. But I think just given the fact, like, there was all of these little seeds and all, just hearing the descriptions on the other stuff that didn't get the time to shine at D23, just hearing those little things, like, really just had me so anticipating what's on the horizon. And I think for me, it's going to be intergalactic. It's going to be the
Yes.
Marvels just because, like, hearing right off the bat that they had cut the trailer to Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys, I'm like, what in the hell? How the heck did I not see that? Like, I just wanted to see that so badly, and how fitting and just how well it went with the movie,
It's
and
definitely
just
gonna be a
hearing
fun
some of the
movie.
stuff. And
Yeah,
yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's
for sure.
especially just because you hear about all of the rapport and that chemistry, the camaraderie between them sounds pretty cool. Like I said, I'm not really feeling Captain Marvel, Photon, and Captain and Miss Marvel. I'm super on board with, but just hearing like what it's going to be about, it's going to be more of like that cosmic kind of story. While most of what we're dealing with is going to be related to the multiverse, and that's going to be something to it's going to be a little bit different. So also too, that just sounds very intriguing for me, and I just can't wait to see more.
yeah.
But all that being said, there were 2 episodes of She-Hulk that we haven't covered recently, so we're gonna get Ruben's take first because he has to go in a couple minutes. So, what did you think about episodes 4 and 5, Ruben? Did they push the storyline better? Did you enjoy them? What did you think about them overall?
I thought the last one was a little too slow for me, but I just liked the way it ended, just with the whole Daredevil helmet and all that kind of stuff. Like that's probably like I ain't gonna lie, I did like the whole because I like style, I like fashion and stuff. So I did like that kind of aspect of the last episode where, like they were like, you need to upgrade, you need to upgrade your look. Like you look too
Yeah.
plain. And so like, and then the dude who collects the freaking shoes, I think he got me on that too. He's like, I know a guy, like I know a guy.
Yeah.
Don't worry, like, because he was like, oh, because her homegirl, her reception is like, oh, could you, hook up She-Hulk, He's like, yeah, I gotta do,
Yeah.
And then I thought that was pretty cool, and then because I feel like that's how it is in real life too, like, hey, you know what, I know the designer, but just for it being specifically for superheroes, I thought that was pretty
Yeah.
cool. And then, like I said, what got me excited at the end when we see
Yeah.
the Daredevil helmet. So I'm like, hey man, he's just around the corner. Like we saw him in Spider-Man. I'm up. I want to see him in his suit. Like I said, once we see him, it's official. Like
Yeah.
he's back. Like, and so I'm excited for the next episode. Right? Like I said, I was complaining about how sometimes the episodes are slow and things like that, and this one was, but it had good reason to it because it was leading into us getting the Daredevil helmet.
Yeah.
So it was cool.
I think
Yeah,
I think She-Hulk. I mean, it's just a fun show right now. That's all it really is. It's not pushing the envelope. It's not doing anything too
Exactly.
crazy. It's. I think it's kind of going into a rhythm of being a superhero show that's focused on being a lawyer, right? And we haven't got a lot of She-Hulk fighting, which is fine. I think it's focused more on just the idea of what it means to be a woman in corporate America. And I was
Exactly.
actually telling my wife like this show's kind of funny because I don't recall ever watching a lawyer show that's actually like comedic in nature. Right, a lot of them are very
Yeah.
dramatic and pretty funny, and this one aren't funny, and this one is actually pretty funny, and I'm liking it. Like I'm liking the take that they're going for with it, and I think they're very I mean, they've shown, and She-Hulk has even said it herself, like, I'm not a superhero, I'm a lawyer. Like, she said it in
Yeah,
this last episode again, and I think she's really pushing that. And I don't know, it's cool, it's funny, and as far as what my wife has told me, it's relatable. So I
Yeah.
like it.
most definitely.
So far, I think it's just a fun show. Like, that's all it really is.
You
It's
you
just
you you can't
entertainment.
relate to a woman in corporate America? Like, as a
Right.
woman in corporate America, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Uh,
What and do you guys ship Wong and Madison?
nah, I think they make good friends. I think that's I like them as just friends. They're pretty funny. And Wong,
Yeah,
you
for
I
sure.
love Wong. This is the Wong cinematic universe, right? So he's just
Well,
showing up everywhere. And yeah, I think he's every time he shows up, it's funny. It's nice to see.
Yeah, it's funny. I like him. I like him in the show. It's like
Yeah.
he's not even considered a cameo anymore. I was like, you're part of the show, dude. You're
Yeah,
part of the
right. At
show.
this point, yeah.
yeah. And honestly, I've enjoyed these last two episodes more than I have with the previous episodes, just because
Okay.
I feel one of the interesting things about it is that dichotomy between Jen and She-Hulk. Because one of the things in runs of She-Hulk is that Jen actually doesn't want to. Sorry, She-Hulk, that she doesn't want to be Jen. She would rather be a She-Hulk because she doesn't think that Jen is fun
Yeah.
or as awesome, and that people like She-Hulk more. So there's kind of this self-confidence issue with Jen, and you see that in the comics, and that's one of the defining character. We haven't seen that so much in the show, but there's just been little hints and instances, more so with that doctor, where he was like so intrigued and ready on board with her as She-Hulk, but then when she woke up as Jen, the
Yeah.
awkwardly left in the morning before breakfast and all that, and then even at court, he openly admits like, yeah, as Jen, I wouldn't date her. As She-Hulk, she's awesome, and you kind of just see those just with her body language, how that affects her. So I kind of want that to be something going forward where it's gonna have to reconcile those two facets of herself. So
Yep.
those are, I think, just more so more from a storytelling perspective. I think it just shows a lot about her character and something too to kind of have that callback to the comics, because that was something that was a big thing. It was a big theme for her also.
Yeah.
And it was interesting too because in the trailer we had seen what it looked like Johnny Blaze. We had saw like that little flyer for it.
Oh yeah.
Come to find out that people were pointing out that it says Donnie Blaze. I was like, no, it's got to say Johnny Blaze. No way they would do this and have it say Donnie. So I kind of thought that was an interesting thing they did in the whole thing on like with fire, and then they did obviously a little bit of an allusion towards illusion, not illusion, alluding to Mephisto. So
Yeah.
it's like you have Donnie, you have the whole with the name, Fire, possibly Mephisto being the one that had that Madison signed her soul away to. I thought like that was a. What did you think about all that? Do you think that they're just intentionally leaving those breadcrumbs, or
I don't
what
think they're
about that?
breadcrumbs. I think they're just messing with the fans at this point. Because just for so long, everyone's been talking about Mephisto coming to the MCU, and at this point, I just think they're honestly just like, hey, let's make
I,
them think this is
it,
Mephisto. Now let's make them
it's
think this is
pretty
Mephisto.
it's getting ridiculous now, because now that I think back on that, a lot of people were speculating that Doctor Strange was really Mephisto in disguise in No Way Home, with the trailer, with the hint
Yeah.
them saying that he was acting offbeat and acting comedic and not acting like himself just because he's winking or something. I'm
Yep.
like, that doesn't. I never understood it, but there's been so many speculations and theories. Everyone's like the first thing that everybody always jumps to is, oh, that's Mephisto. I don't
Yeah.
know how many times that's
Yeah.
happened in the
I
MCU so
I
far.
remember in Moon Knight, everyone was saying what's his name, the villain, the actor, Ethan
Arthur
Hawke.
How?
Yeah,
Ethan
but
Hawke. I mean,
everyone
the
was saying
character he
Ethan
played.
Hawke was gonna be Mephisto when they announced that Ethan Hawke was gonna show up, and even after the show was
WandaVision.
happening and it was clear who like that he wasn't gonna be Mephisto, people still were trying to connect that. So honestly, I think they're just messing with
WandaVision,
us at
that
this
was
point.
long speculated for a long time too.
Yeah, yeah. So oh man, I don't know. It's all over the place, and we'll see. I think the best way to see Mephisto is still gonna be through like a Doctor Strange show or movie, but in the end, Mephisto can show up at any point now. Really, maybe he'll show up in
Yeah.
Daredevil.
Maybe.
Who knows?
I mean, that'd be kind of funny, playing on the whole devil aspect.
Yep. Yeah,
But
or we might see him in Ironheart. You mentioned the whole idea of technology versus magic, so that's
exactly,
possible there too.
definitely. And like I said, I actually really like these episodes. Not saying that I'm completely on board with it, but I think I'm taking the series for what it was, because I actually, upon first watching of episode 4, I wasn't totally keen on it, or I wasn't really. Obviously, you're not going to be blown away by it, but just thinking back on it, taking it for what it is. Obviously, Madison was an awesome character, was a breath of fresh air, and
Yeah.
her chemistry with Wong was pretty awesome to see. So taking it from, because I in preparation of these questions, I actually had called it filler, and it kind of is, but I think I enjoyed that aspect of it. That fact that there's not stuff that's affecting the multiverse, stuff that's affecting the world, stuff that is affecting the whole MCU as we know it. The fact that it's just these self-contained stories, and this woman's story that's happening, she just happens to be in the MCU and related to a Hulk and become a Hulk herself, who's also a lawyer. I think just thinking about the show for what it is that comedic law. I prefer stuff with more action. Obviously, being I'm a martial art guy and I love my fight scenes, but I'm actually really enjoying this show so far, at least these last 2 episodes, for what they are. And especially when you think about those themes of the character and that whole dichotomy between Jen and She-Hulk, and how she's gonna have to reconcile those two facets of her character. So I'm actually intrigued to see how it finishes off. And then we know Daredevil is gonna be hopefully in these last 2 episodes. Was it one more episode or two? Two, right?
Wasn't it 9 episodes?
Oh,
I don't know
9?
how long She-Hulk is. We have more than 1 episode left though.
I thought it was 2.
But regardless,
But
I'm liking it, and I think honestly the whole show is filler. It's filler for the MCU as a whole.
pretty
It
much.
is it maybe there was some setup there with Hulk at the beginning where he's going off to Sakaar or whatever, and sure, like, okay, it's just like handing it off. All right, you go this way. Abomination, who knows if we'll see
Oh,
it
you're
at
right.
some
9
point.
episodes.
Yeah, so Abomination, who knows if we'll see him again, but obviously, like, they bring him in, he gets out, and Jen makes a joke at one point where he's like, "This isn't one of those shows where it's cameo every episode," but so far that's what it's been, and
Pretty much been.
and so I think it's cool. I think it's fine. I think this is kind of the MCU's way of preparing people for more of these types of shows, right? Like I'm hoping that out of this maybe we can get something like Damage Control as a show. I think that'd be hilarious, almost like a sitcom, right? And of just like people just trying to clean up the messes of superheroes. And I think all of it would be pretty cool to see from that sense, and just bringing more funny, more different types of shows into the MCU universe. And I think She-Hulk is a good bridge to do that. And I've liked it. I'm telling you, I'm entertained by it. I'm not going into it expecting something like intense, like Falcon
Groundbreaking.
and Winter Soldier, or like super like defining like Loki was, or WandaVision. Like I came in fully expecting this to just be like a fun show, and that's what I've gotten. So I guess that
Yeah.
also comes back to like managing expectations, right? A lot of people came into
Yeah.
She-Hulk expecting another like superhero show, and that's not really what they're getting, what they've gotten so far. I don't think there's been more than 2 episodes. I don't think there's been more than like 5 minutes where we see her actually fighting or action
Yeah.
in the whole
And
series
then
so
the ones that
far.
we do, obviously she's not trained, so it's just more of a brawler, bruiser kind of
Yep,
persona when she fights.
throwing stuff around and stepping
Yeah.
on people, and that's all.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm happy with it so far. I have no idea where it's going. Obviously this last episode we got what's her name, Titania to come back, and she did more
Yeah.
stuff, but again, that was all for comedic purposes. Like the whole idea that she
Yeah.
took the She-Hulk name and they had to fight
Try to
for
trademark
it.
it herself. Yeah.
Yeah, and at the end she says that it isn't over, and she leaves. Like it's just fun from that perspective. I thought maybe they were gonna get like a big bad, and they're gonna, or not a big bad, just like a villain for She-Hulk, and they're gonna move forward with it. And but
Yeah.
that from the last episode I didn't really see that. So I just saw
Right.
just another rival to her, and then she'll just move on from there. And I like it
Right.
because
Exactly.
I don't know what to expect from week to week. Like
Exactly.
now, I think at the end of the second to last episode, sure, you saw that Titania's using the She-Hulk name, and Jen gets pissed. Like, okay, the next episode is going to focus on that. But right now, all we really saw was the Daredevil mask at the end. Who knows? We might not even get the Daredevil in the next episode. We really don't know what to expect right now. So I
And
kind of
I think
like that.
that's the thing I'm curious on is how they're gonna do that because obviously the show has not been heavy action at all, and if it has, it's just been her taking out her adversaries very, very quickly. So
Yeah.
now that they have someone with incredible fighting skills and a well-defined style, heavily representative of martial arts, I'm wondering how they're gonna kind of do that with going from very. We've had what like in these 5 episodes, we've had what like 3, 4 action sequences, maybe at the like 5 at the most.
Yeah.
So now you're gonna have to go from one incorporating Daredevil, which is maybe gonna have like at least 2. So I'm wondering how that's gonna work out, and that'll just be a good indicator for how we're gonna get Daredevil portrayed in the MCU with regards to him
I
and
think
his fighting style and all that.
yeah. I think that Daredevil is just gonna be more of a cameo, kind of like Abomination was. We only really saw Abomination like turn into Abomination once. I think that's what we're gonna get with Daredevil. I don't even think we're gonna see Daredevil fight. I think they're gonna bring in Matt Murdock as a lawyer.
I think we're gonna see him fight, maybe
Yeah.
briefly. Then I was hoping for at least an action sequence or 2, but we're probably gonna get Matt Murdock and then Daredevil, so he'll probably
Yeah.
be sprinkled pretty much throughout the whole episode. But
I my guess is that we're gonna see Matt Murdock come in, lawyer, help out Jen,
yeah,
and then on the back end, he's just gonna show up in the middle of a fight, help her out, and that's probably it. Honestly, I don't think we're gonna see a lot of Daredevil in this show.
It is pretty interesting that they're going to be doing that red and yellow suit, the first one that he wore, just because that was also a more lighter portrayal of Daredevil. So not only does it help to pay homage to the comics and the source material, but also lets us know, like, hey, this is going to be a more lighthearted approach to Daredevil.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I thought that was a very smart way to do it.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Oh, like I said, I'm not expecting anything groundbreaking. I'm not going to be swayed or wowed at the season finale, but as long as it continues this same kind of trajectory, I'm gonna just have an enjoyable experience watching this and say, hey, this is a cool superhero show. Check it out when you get a chance, and that's pretty much how I'm gonna sum it up. As long as, like I said, it keeps going this route.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
And like I said, hopefully we see more of that internal struggle with her, with Jen versus She-Hulk debacle and all of that. Like I definitely want to have more of a point of contention with that as far as plot and story goes.
Yeah.
But overall, yeah, going decent, going a little bit better. So can't wait to see. So make sure you guys check out She-Hulk. It has new episodes released every Thursday at midnight. So we're going to be covering that episode 6 next week. Black Adam is coming very, very soon. I can't wait because the power of hierarchy in the DC, in the DC universe is about to change. So, a couple weeks actually. Oh, I'm sorry. Exactly. Well, it's September 21st when we're recording this. It comes out October 21st. So exactly a month. Can't wait.
There you go. Yeah, I know. I'm excited for it too. Definitely gonna go watch it.
I had mentioned we had just seen that new trailer for Black Adam, but I wanted to hurry up, and Ruben didn't have a whole bunch of time. I wanted to get his take on what he thought of the last 2 episodes of She-Hulk. So we'll make sure to have that be the first thing that we talk about on the next episode, which is the new Black Adam trailer, where we got the full confirmation of the villain and a little bit more action sequences, a little bit more look at the Justice Society. Good stuff to come.
Great. That sounds good.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure to hit that like button. Please subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at Heroes and Mutants Podcast. And we'll see you guys next time. Heroes and Mutants Podcast, your #1 source of superhero talk. Thank you guys so much.
See ya.
Wakanda forever.